Then there are other instances where something just happens and the emotions are triggered, right? Like somebody spits in your face, you're coming after them. And it definitely is being played. Somebody is taking you off track, or you yourself are pushing yourself off track. And there's this catharsis of feeling the emotion and then going through it. But it's a vicious cycle, and it's a fool's cycle. And yet there is another part of us where we feel what we feel. We do have impulses. We do have urges. We don't know where all of them come from. We are not in control of all of them. So what if these impulses and these urges are in fact manipulation or a mistake on our part, a lack of discipline, a lack of forethought, a lack of vision, an indulgence? It's like watching a football game, right? Like when your team wins, you feel great, and when your team loses, you feel terrible. I'm sure if we measure people's man's testosterone, before the game, like we take two men that are rooting for different teams, and we measure their testosterone before the game, and then one of the teams wins and one of the teams loses, and we measure their testosterone again after that. I'm pretty sure that the man whose team lost has got a lower testosterone. So it's not like even these emotional escapades that we put ourselves into, it's not like they don't have an effect. And this is profound. Okay, over the years, this is the difference between, being a strong, fit, healthy man versus being a sick, out of shape, obese, weak man, let me just say an unhealthy person. And yet I know that you cannot control all of your feelings and your urges and your impulses. It's not like you can just decide what to think about, what to focus on. You can do it to a degree, but you can't do it 100%. And then these patterns of behavior are developed and mimicked, taken in, but we never decided to be that way. A fetus in the womb, if the mother is in an aggressive area, like perhaps a war zone, the child comes out with an aggressive, hostile attitude. And if the mother is in a peaceful, calm environment, generally speaking, this is what I've heard, the child comes out with a cooperative, gentle attitude. And this makes sense, doesn't it? I mean, this is actually helpful, isn't it? This is actually like, evolution, the environment preparing you for what you have to deal with. Right? Like I would have hated to be an ultra-sensitive child growing up in my household, right? That would not have been good. But what about today? What about right now? So someone leaves a comment on my video and they're critical. They're finding fault. And do you know what I feel when I read that? That's right. I feel largely what I felt when I was just that little kid. That's the automatic response. Interesting, isn't it? I think it is. I don't want to be trapped in a cycle of getting my feelings hurt over stuff that I imagine people might mean. Like, what if I had some great responsibility, like that of a leader, like other people were relying on me, and yet I'm flying off the handle. I'm all emotional. I'm reacting to insults that I imagine. How effective would I be as a leader? How effective would I be simply at getting my things done, right? Like I don't have to be a leader. I can just be somebody trying to get something done. How effective would I be at keeping myself fit, strong, and capable if I was indulging, if whatever happened around me threw me into, some emotional state? And like I said, I'm not suggesting that we have complete control over our impulses and our urges. However, we do need to be able to exercise enough control to not hurt ourselves, to maintain our health, to maintain pretty much the status quo of our relationships and our interactions with other people in a favorable way. Something else worth recognizing is that this isn't something that gets overcome and then doesn't have to be dealt with anymore. This is a constant process. These are things that are happening daily, recurring, multiple times throughout the day. This is not a small point. This struggle, this directing, this guiding of the self, it's a constant process. I deal with a lot of addicts, right? So we're talking about impulse control here. We're talking about extremely low levels of dopamine. So the people are suffering. They're in pain and they want what they want to get out of their suffering and their pain. Some people, when they get upset, they overeat, emotional eating. Some people, especially men, especially younger men, might engage in dangerous, threatening behavior as an expression of their frustration and rage, of impulses that have been triggered by the environment around them. So what am I? Am I something that's being played upon by the environment, by the other people around me? Am I a ping pong? Am I a puppet on a string that other people pull people at their will? I don't want to be that. Take out the idea of other people even. Am I just not in control? I admire people who get a lot done in life. I look up to them. I envy them, I suppose. I don't know if envy is the right word. They seem to have qualities and abilities that I don't seem to have. Or I have those, but in different areas. Much more related to how I speak, I have it, but I don't have it in how I structure my life. I have it in some of the work I do, but I don't have it in my emotional interactions with other people. So I suppose I would ask the question, to the degree that it's possible and reasonable and human, are you in control of yourself? And I am not entirely, that is not entirely true for me. I feel like I need to start channeling Jordan Peterson, right? Like if I did everything that I knew and thought that I needed to do throughout my day to have a good life, if I did all of that, how might things turn out? I think I try to do that, but then I come up with problems. I come up short, and then I have a certain emotional reaction to that. And then a kind of internal dialogue, a kind of rambling conversation within my own mind starts to take place. And it usually portrays me to myself as a victim of the world and the people in it and the circumstances in it as the oppressor and the abuser of me, right? Like all women are bad and have this nasty attitude. Is that true? It's not. It's not true. Like I could walk up to one woman and she could be like, I hate you. You're a man. You've been oppressing women for thousands of years. And I could be like, oh, MGTOW. But then I could come up to another woman and she could be nothing like that. So what's important here isn't the truth of the situation, but rather how I feel about it. This dialogue that I'm going through, that I'm putting myself through for this emotional catharsis. It doesn't seem very mature or disciplined to me.